my name is Bhavik Kapadia. I'd like to actually thanking you to attend the webinar in the migration from SHA-1 to SHA-2, the implications and the next steps on what to do. If anyone does have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the questions section or in the chat section, and we will get back to you in regards to any of your questions that you have at the end of the webinar. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, we will get back to you email as well. So SSL 247, we're specialist partners in website security with also the EMEA Semantic Champions as well of 2014. We have more than 10 years experience security products, and we're all SSC and SSC Plus accredited. ISO 27001 accreditation. As you can see, this is myself, so I'll be going through this webinar here today. Part 1 of the webinar is what is SHA. Part 2 of the webinar will be why the deprecation in SHA-1, and part 3 will be switching to SHA-2 and how we can come across that and how we can do that. So part 1 is what is SHA itself. So SHA stands for Secure Hash Algorithm, and it's actually a function to transform an input into an output, which we call a hash value with a certain number of bits. There has been several generations. So previously we had an example of a former hash algorithm called MD5, which is now completely obsolete. It was designed in 1991, but since 2004 it's been out of play. It's been completely obsolete. And the reason why is because the algorithm which was generated was too short, and it was more sensitive to attacks than the ones that we have currently. So when you apply an algorithm on a message, when you apply the SHA algorithm on a message, it gives you a unique string called fingerprint, digest, or hash value. And this is to actually sort of provide the integrity and authenticity of a message to the receiver and identify the validation during the SSL process. That is the reason why we have the SHA algorithm. How it works, so it doesn't matter how many times you apply a SHA algorithm on a particular message. As you can see in the example here, we've got website security specialist as the message. Now when you apply a SHA algorithm on that message, you'll come up with a SHA hash value, which you can see on the right hand side of the screen. Now depending on whether a single character is changed or not, that hash value will be different. So if in the example you can see here, if we have at the end of specialist, if we put an E, the hash value is completely different. Again, if we take off the S at the end and just have web security specialist, then the hash value changes again. And basically what we're trying to say is this is a one-way cryptographic algorithm, so it's actually considered practically impossible to invert. So that is to recreate the input data from its hash value alone. That is not possible. It's not possible to do that. And the input data is called the message, and the hash value is often called the message digest. Now, what is SHA-1? So a lot of people will be asking this question, what is SHA-1? Well, all it is it's a version of a SHA algorithm which produces 160-bit hash value. You can see as an example of the SHA-1 hash value over here in the example. And basically, when the research was conducted back in February 2014, so just over a year ago, there were some statistics on that SHA-1 certificates actually represented about 98% of all SSL certificates in use on the web. Now, as time has gone by, obviously these statistics have changed, and there are a lot more certificates today in SHA-2, and you know, that's the way it should be, and that's the way it will carry on being. What is SHA-2? Well, SHA-2 is just another version of the SHA algorithm. So just how we had SHA-1, we've got SHA-2. But the biggest difference here is the example of the SHA-256 hash value, where you can see in the example in the orange writing that the SHA-256 hash value is much longer than what we had for the same example for SHA-1. And often when we say SHA-2, it actually means for SHA-256. Interestingly, there is actually another hashing algorithm which is being developed. It's not out yet, and it won't be out for a very long time, but that's actually SHA-3. But for currently all we need to consider and take into consideration is we need to move on from SHA-1 to SHA-2. So to sum up the first part, so part 1 is, now that we know what SHA is, and now that we know why it's essential to our certificates to provide the integrity and the authenticity on those messages and the credibility to your SSL certificates, we're going to see the critical deadlines to keep in mind switching over to SHA-2. So now we're going to be talking a little bit about why the deprecation, and I think this is one of the most important aspects of this webinar. So there are weaknesses to SHA-1, and there are reasons why we are moving on from SHA-1 to SHA-2, and there are different kinds of attacks, you know, possible on hashing algorithms. But today we're going to be solely focusing on collision attacks as an example. There are other types of attacks, for example, pre-image attacks as well. But today we'll be focusing more on the collision attacks. So when there are infinity input lengths and there are predefined output lengths, there are going to be a possibility of 2 different inputs that produce the same hash value. Now, if there are 2 messages which produce the same hash value, then there could be a collision attack. And when that collision happens, there are ways of being exploited. So, for example, there are a number of exploitations. One of them could be redirecting people to fake websites. Another could be, you know, stealing confidential data. So when we talk about some of the e-commerce websites, for example, if you're buying something online, when you put in your credit card details or, you know, your personal details, there is a risk of that confidential data being stolen, and you know, we don't want that to happen. And this is another reason why we're moving from SHA-1 to SHA-2. There are also ways of creating malware attacks as well, as an example. So these are some of the sort of consequences of a collision attack. Basically, it will increase the risks of a man-in-the-middle attack, and obviously it will decrease the integrity of your SSL certificates, which is completely opposite to why we install an SSL certificate in the first place. Now, the algorithms before SHA-2, and previously I mentioned the MD5 hashing algorithm. Now, it's not resistant to collisions in practice, and as you can see in the example here, the MD5 hash value, the length of that is only 128-bit. Now, earlier we spoke a little bit about MD5 and the reason why it's obsolete. It's because it's too short. It's not resistant. to collisions in practice. So in the past, with MD5, we had attackers produce colliding messages. So one with the contents of the benign end entity certificate and one with the contents of a malicious certificate. Once the end entity certificate signed by the certificate authority, the attacker reused digital signature to produce fraudulent CA certificates and issue fraudulent end entity certificates for any domains. So that's why it's not resistant to collisions in practice. Now, coming on to SHA-1, in theory, only in theory, it is resistant to collision attacks because it's too long to decrypt for hackers currently. But the way technology is going today and the way its modern technology is in terms of its evolution, we believe that it won't be too far away when that theory becomes a practice. And here is the biggest sort of way to put it, that for the first time in many, many years, if you see that the certificate authority browser are actually being proactive rather than reactive. So they're taking this stance that we're going to move from SHA-1 to SHA-2 before anything happens. Before people start making collision attacks, before people attack, as for example, a man-in-the-middle attack, we will move on to SHA-2. And as you can see, so just the same way we moved from MD5 to SHA-1, we're now moving on from SHA-1 to SHA-2, which simply is a bigger hash value. So if you see, just going back to MD5, the hash value length is 128-bit. SHA-1 hash value length is 160-bit, whereas SHA-2, the hash value length is 256-bit. So it's much, much, much longer than the other two previous algorithms that were in play at that time. So all in all, moving from SHA-1 to SHA-2, it will increase your security and your safety online. Now, just putting everything into consideration, those were the reasons why we need to move from SHA-1 to SHA-2. But now we'll be talking a little bit about the deadlines, the most important aspect of this, and why it's so important for you to move on from SHA-1 to the new hashing algorithm SHA-2. So if we take, there are actually 3 deadlines in this. So the first one we'll take is Microsoft. So originally, what Microsoft done is they're actually a member of the Certificate Authority Browser Forum, which initiated the transition to SHA-2. So they were the ones that came up with the whole aspect of, enough of SHA-1, now we'll move on to SHA-2. And in November 2013, they made an announcement that no SSL certificate using SHA-1 would be recognized by its operating system from the 1st of January. So they will stop trusting any SHA-1 SSL certificate from January the 1st, 2017. Okay, so that's Microsoft operating system have said that. Now, Microsoft also urged the certification authorities not to issue or reissue any SHA-1 certificates from the 1st of January 2016, and that's the same for all web browsers as well. So whether you're using Internet Explorer, whether you're using Google Chrome, whether it's Mozilla Firefox, they will all have the same instructions when you try and connect to a SHA-1 certificate after the deadline dates. Now, the consequences to this is you can actually see on my screen here that any user trying to connect to a website using a SHA-1 certificate will get the following warning message. So you will get first of all, you will get a red padlock with a cross on it and saying your connection is not private. Now that means that your SSL certificate is not trusted anymore. That will, as a business, you don't want that. You don't want your end clients, whether it's your end clients buying something, whether it's logging onto a portal. You don't want anyone to see this message, because as soon as they see that message, they will move away from that. They don't know whether to trust the website or not. Okay? Now, the second deadline is from the certificate authorities themselves. So whether you have a certificate from Symantec, whether you have a certificate from GeoTrust, GlobalSign, Thought, any of the certificate authorities, it doesn't matter, but following Microsoft's decision, all certificate authorities will stop issuing SHA-1 certificates after the 1st of January 2016. Okay, so if your certificate expires before January 1st, 2016, you can still get a SHA-1 certificate, but its validity period can't go after January the 1st of 2017. Okay, and that's for all certificate authorities. It's not just the ones that you see on screen here. Every single certificate authority are going to be following these rules. Okay. Now, the third deadline, which we're going to talk about, is the deadline from Google. And on the 20th of August 2014, Google announced the acceleration of the SHA-2 transition. Okay, and how is Google actually doing that? So they will come up with visual alerts appearing on Google Chrome. Okay, so they will start displaying warning icons on websites using SHA-1 certificates. But this also depends on the expiration date of your SHA-1 certificate and the version of your Google Chrome. Okay, now the reason why we're talking about Google Chrome in this webinar is because they're actually such an established entity in the web browser market. So to give you a little statistic, Google Chrome is 60% of web users worldwide. So 60% of web users will use Google Chrome every single time they go onto a web browser. Okay, and the web browsers themselves are actually responsible for checking the validity of the SSL certificates, and that's why, you know, they have such a prominent place in the discussions on this topic. Now, coming on to the sort of the warning icons that you can see here. So Google Chrome versions 40 and 41. So they both came out in February and March. So if you have Google Chrome or Google 41, Google Chrome 40 or 41, sorry, you are going to see these warning icons. So for SHA-1 certificates expiring between the 1st of June 2016 and December 31st, 2016. Okay, so if you have a SHA-1 certificate expiring between those two dates, you will not get a green padlock. So you will not get a green padlock, but what you will get instead is this sort of padlock with a triangle on top. Okay, so what that means is your padlock is secured, but with minor errors. So people logging onto that website, they will see minor errors on that web page. Okay, now after January 1st, 2017, so if you're still using Chrome 40 and Chrome 41, both came out in February and March, if your certificate, if your SHA-1 certificate is expiring after the 1st of January 2017, then you'll get the second warning icon, which simply shows a little web page, and it's neutral, it's lacking security. So previously it was secured but with minor errors, but if your SHA-1 certificate expires after the 1st of January 2017, you'll get a neutral, lacking security warning icon displayed in Google Chrome. Okay, now one of the reasons why Google want to speed up that process is to avoid a situation similar to the MD5 story, which I told you earlier. So while it was already obsolete, it remained used for quite a long time, and Google wants to avoid that and end SHA-1 before it's completely compromised. Okay, so Chrome 41 has been released since the March 3rd, but the visual alerts remain the same as Chrome 40. So Chrome 40 and 41, these are the visual alerts that you'll be seeing, or your customers will be seeing. Now, Chrome 42, it has been announced that Chrome 42 will go further with the deprecation of SHA-1 certificates. Okay, so initially it was supposed to be with Chrome 41, but Google postponed the display of the insecure alert, which I'm going to talk about now. So from April the 14th, 2015, when your Google Chrome is at the latest version, you install it or you update it, it will be on Chrome 42. If you still have a SHA-1 certificate and it's expiring between the 1st of June 2016 and the 31st of December 2016, again, you'll get a secured but with minor errors. So with the padlock, but you'll get a triangle, a yellow triangle displayed. So it's secured but with minor errors. So it doesn't matter what type of certificate you have. Okay, it doesn't matter what certificate authority you're with. It doesn't matter what validation your certificate is. It doesn't matter whether it's domain validated, organization validated, or extended validated. You will see this this minor error if your certificate is expiring between the 1st of June 2016 and the 31st of December 2016. Okay, now the biggest difference between Chrome 42 and Chrome 40 and 41 is the fact that if your SHA-1 certificate is expiring after January the 1st of 2017, you will get an insecure warning icon. Okay, so the one that has the padlock but with a red cross going across it. So that will show your end clients, that will show everyone logging on to that website that it will not be secure. Okay, and that's the biggest difference between Chrome 42, Chrome 40 and 41. And Chrome 42 is coming out on 14th of April. So if your certificates are expiring between those dates, there is a decision that you need to make very quickly. Okay? Now, here are some of the visual alerts which Google are coming out with. So again, if your certificate is expiring, expires and it's SHA-1, if it's expiring after June 1st, 2016, your users will see, first of all, they'll see that padlock with a yellow triangle, secured but with minor errors. There is a neutral lacking security icon as well, and the affirmatively insecure icon. Okay, so these are some of the visual alerts that you'll be seeing in days to come if you're still in SHA-1. Now, here is an example of what Chrome users will see. So on the left-hand side, if your certificate is still in SHA-1, you will see that the site is being used with an outdated security setting. Okay, that may prevent versions of Chrome from being able to safely access it, instead of seeing what SSL 247 has on their website, which is in SHA-2 format. So switching to SHA-2 and why it's so essential. So it's actually the new security standard set by the US NIST guidance, which stands for US National Institute of Standards and Technology Guidance. So after January 2014, SHA-1 was not trusted anymore for the higher level of assurance communications in the US federal bridge. Okay, so most government contractors were required to meet this criteria or requirement with varying deadlines at that point in time. There is also the PCI and DSS compliance, which basically said that if you were using SHA-1 certificates and you wanted to be PCI and DSS compliant, you had to switch from SHA-1 to SHA-2. So it required all clients to use SHA-2 compatible SSL certificates in order to meet the PCI DSS compliance. And we actually recently had a client which had a penetration testing done. In that penetration testing, once the report came back, they actually said to be PCI and DSS compliant, you will have to switch all your SHA-1 certificates to SHA-2 certificates. Until that is not met, those criteria are not met, you will not be able to be PCI and DSS compliant. Okay, so they do definitely ask for SHA-2 certificates. It doesn't, in the end, it doesn't matter whether you're a small company, whether you're a large company, what type of certificate you have. It has an impact on each and every organization, each and every certificate. So whether it's a small e-commerce website or whether it's a government entity, you know, it has an impact on everyone. Everyone is concerned by this migration, and it's for both internal and external applications as well. Okay, so it won't make a difference whether you're, you know, a massive company or a large company. It will impact you. That's the bottom line. Now, if you don't, obviously we went through the visual alerts. If you don't move to SHA-2, then you're going to be getting those visual alerts, which will only increase as time goes on. Okay, so with the new Google Chrome that is coming out, you will get warning messages. With Microsoft operating system, they will stop trusting SSL certificates, which are in SHA-1 format, from the 1st of January 2017 as well. Okay, now it's not only that, it's not only the visual, you know, alerts that you'll be getting, but it's also the negative feedback, the negative reactions that you get from your clients. For example, if you're an e-commerce website, and this is only an example, if you're in an e-commerce website and your certificate comes up with a warning sign, you know, the one that you can see on the screen, and says your connection is not private, are you as a buyer going to carry on with that website? You're not. You know, if you see a massive warning sign saying, do not trust this website, why would you go ahead and still go onto that website? So there is a lot at stake here. You know, the trust factor, the brand factor, all is at risk. And everything is being impacted as well. Okay, so these were some of the deadlines which I showed you about. And you know, with the deadlines, it's important that you migrate from SHA-1 to SHA-2. And if you do have any questions regarding the deadlines, you know, we're always here to help. But now we'll be moving on to part 3 of this, and switching to SHA-2. Okay, the transition from SHA-1 to SHA-2. And why it's important to do this and how we can help you in the process of doing this. So we're going to tell you about planning your migration. So the first part is to identify your SHA-1 certificates, seeing which of your certificates are still in the SHA-1 format. Okay. Second part is to check whether your server and your browser is compatible or not. So that is very important. You don't want to try and move to SHA-2 if your server and your browser is not compatible. There are ways around it, which I'll tell you very shortly. Number 3 is to prioritize the SHA-1 certificates. How to switch to SHA-2 with SSL 247. That's number 4. Number 5 will be installing your SHA-2 certificate. And lastly, to test your new certificate to see whether it's been installed correctly, to see whether it's in SHA-2 format. Okay? So there are 3 ways of identifying your SHA-1 certificate, which we'll be going through now. The first way of doing this is using the SHA-1 checker. So this is an example on the SSL247.co.uk website. Now, it doesn't matter which website you log into, which is SSL247. So it doesn't matter which language you're in. The pages will be very, very similar. Okay. So at the top where we have the support tab, if you click on the SHA-1 checker, you can use the SHA-1 checker by entering your domain or copy and pasting your SSL certificate in the field. Okay. Now, just to bear in mind, if you have a wildcard certificate, make sure to type in one of the subdomains, okay, into the SHA-1 checker. If you just type in star.example.com, it will not pick it up, it will not identify it. But if you type in mail.example.com, it will pick it up, okay? So this is just to let you know. Now, if it's in SHA-2, you can see the SSL247.co.uk, as an example we've used here, it comes up with a SHA-2 detected certificate. So you're all clear, you're ready to go, you're fine. On the left-hand side, we typed in a domain, and it's SHA-1 detected. So there is a warning sign. Okay, so those are the 2 big differences. If your certificate is still in SHA-1, it will be detected. If your certificate is in SHA-2, it will also be detected. Okay. Now, if you're already a client, then you can also use your MySSL platform in identifying the certificate. So if you log in to your MySSL platform, on the left-hand side, you will see the MySSL certificates. Okay. Now, if you click on the issued certificates, if you click on issued certificate, you will come up with this page, which will outline all your SSL certificates, and you can click on the I, one of the I's, whichever certificate you want to see, and if you click on it, it will give you this page, the one that I've just pulled up now. Once you get that page, it will give you a lot of information regarding the certificate details. It will also give you, most importantly, which hashing algorithm your certificate is in currently. Okay, so we've used this certificate as an example, and this certificate is in SHA-2 format. Okay, so this is by going into your MySSL platform if you're already a client at SSL 247. Okay, you can identify thirdly by simply checking on your web browser, which is very, very simple as well. All you have to do is type in the domain of the certificate. We will use SSL247.co.uk as an example. If you click on the padlock at the top and you go into connection, so click on the padlock at the top, click on the tab which says connection, and then click on the certificate information section. There will be a new window which opens up. You can click on the top tab which says details. Now, if you check in that details, it will have signature hash algorithm. and that will show you whether your certificate is in SHA-2 or SHA-1. Now, SSL247.co.uk is in SHA-2 format, but you can check that for each and every certificate that you have, and that's the third way of identifying whether your certificates are in SHA-1 or not. Okay. Now, coming back to part 2, in planning the migration to SHA-2, you want to check whether your server and your browser is compatible or not. And you can do so by using our online white paper to check web browser compatibility, to check whether your server is compatible or not. Most of the times when some of our clients come to us asking whether their server is compatible or not, if it's not on the white paper, it's usually what they have to do is consider upgrading their servers. Okay, so be sure to upgrade your servers and your web browsers to the latest versions, whichever they have. Okay. Now, thirdly, you want to prioritize your SHA-1 certificates. So if you have a lot of certificates, you want to be prioritizing them according to the expiration date. So focus on the certificates with the latest expiration date first. Okay, so focus on replacing your SHA-1 certificates with an expiration in 2017 first. Okay, then 2016 and sooner. The reason behind this is that Google will be degrading the Chrome user interface in phases, beginning with the certificates that expire after 2017. And in future releases, when they have Chrome 43, 44, and so on, there will be degraded user interfaces for certificates expiring after 2016, which will also be displayed. Okay. Now, you also want to focus on the level of urgency. So, depending upon external certificates, accessible sites, first since your public-facing sites, you want to be moving them from SHA-1 to SHA-2 as soon as possible, because you do have the risk to lose trust due to the way Chrome browsers will handle these websites using SHA-1 certificates. Okay, so you want to have your priorities set out. So the first is the expiration date. The second is the level of urgency. Are they public facing or not? And thirdly, you want to be in complete control of the transition time. So check how much time you need to prepare the transition. For example, is your server compatible or not? Are there issues? Do I need to do an upgrade first? Do I not need to do an upgrade? Okay, so check that before you move from SHA-1 to SHA-2. Now, switching to SHA-2 with SSL 247, there are 3 ways to switch to SHA-2. You can renew your certificate, so you can contact us and we will place your orders automatically in SHA-2 format. Okay, so if you want to renew your certificate, we will put them in SHA-2, place them in SHA-2 format straight away, which is done automatically. If you still require because of compatibility issues, all you have to do is ask us. We will treat it case by case, depending upon your requirements. Okay, so if you want SHA-1, that's perfectly fine. Although taking everything into consideration, it's not a wise move, but we will be able to do that. Okay. Now, secondly, competitive replacements. If you're not with SSL 247, if you don't have SSL certificates with SSL 247, we will be doing competitive replacements, which is if you have an SSL certificate with a certificate authority with any company, we will give you a competitive replacement. So we will add up to 12 months onto your certificate, onto your new certificate, whichever time you have remaining on your current SSL certificates. Okay, so we will do a competitive replacement on your SSL certificates by adding the remainder of the time onto your new certificates, which is up to 12 months. Okay, and the third way is to do a simple reissue. You can do the reissue with SSL 247, which is completely free of charge. It's easy and it doesn't require a lot of manipulation as well. Reissuing with SSL 247 is only for SSL 247 existing clients. We can reissue certificates for them. Okay. Now switching to SHA-2 with SSL 247, reissuing your certificates on your My SSL portal. So again, I'd like to highlight the fact that this is for existing SSL 247 clients, reissuing on your My SSL platform. So firstly, it's a two-step process in reissuing your SSL certificate. What you do is you log in to your My SSL platform, you access your SSL certificates products, and on the left hand side you click on the issued certificates. If you click on that, what you will need to do as a step one is to generate a new CSR. So generate a new certificate signing request. Now you can use, if you know the CSR information that you put previously in the certificate, you will have to use the same information. So it's very important to understand that in order to reissue your certificate, you need to generate a new CSR, however, with the same CSR details as you used in the original certificate. Okay? So, if you do not remember your CSR information, you can find it through your My SSL platform. So if you go into any of your certificates, on the right hand side you will see a download existing CSR. So download existing certificate signing request, which was originally on that certificate. You can type that in, so you can click on that button and it will come up with the existing CSR. Okay, then what you do is you go into the support tab at the top of the website. So as mentioned previously, this is the ssl247.co.uk website, but it will be the same for all other websites as well for SSL 247. If you click on SSL tools and then the CSR decoder, you can copy and paste the downloaded CSR into the CSR decoder. Okay, so copy and paste that in and press decode, and that will give you the CSR details that you require. Now, in order to access instructions on generating the new CSR, what you need to do is again go into the support tab at the top and click on the Create CSR tab, which will then take you to a page on how to generate My CSR, how to generate your certificate signing request. All you have to click is Create Your CSR, and it'll give you options depending on which server you're going to create the CSR on. Okay. Now, this is the step 2. Once you've created that new CSR with exactly the same details as used previously, you can go back to the certificate page on the My SSL portal. Okay, so on your My SSL portal, go back to the certificate page where you clicked on Download Existing CSR. Now, if you scroll down at the bottom, all you have to do is copy and paste the certificate signing request, the new CSR, in the reissuing field and validate it. Okay, so that's all you have to do. The validation will be automatically done in SHA-2 format. So the reissuing of your SSL certificate will be done in SHA-2 format. Once you press validate, it will process it, and you should get your certificate issued in a maximum duration of 2 hours. This is for a reissue of a certificate. Okay. Now you can find this this easy 2-step process on our dedicated tutorial. You can, and it will tell you a step-by-step guide of everything that I've told you in this part 3 process on reissuing your certificate in SHA-2. Okay. Once the certificate has been installed, once the certificate has been reissued, you will get your SHA-2 certificate emailed over to you in a fulfillment email, which will be emailed over to technical contact, and in that it will have explanations on how to install your SSL certificate, and it will have the attachments of your SHA-2 certificates as well. Okay. Do not forget to install your SHA-2 intermediate certificate as well. Okay, it's very, very important that you install the intermediate certificate in SHA-2. It has to be your SHA-2 intermediate certificate. But you do not need to change that for the root certificates. Okay, it's just the intermediate and the main certificate. Now, lastly, what you want to do is test your new certificate and check your installation by going into the SSL support tab again at the top. If you click on the tab, it will have SSL tools and it will have a health checker. Okay, so you can click on the certificate authority depending on which certificate authority you are with. Click on that and it will give you a health checker. Alternatively, you can also have the certificate decoder to check whether your certificate has been installed correctly. Okay. Now, here are some useful links for you, and the webinar will be available online to all of you in a few days' time. But be sure to check out these links, and there is a lot of information on here regarding the whole webinar that we've done, important links, etc. Okay. Now, questions and answers. Again, I said if you do have any questions, do not hesitate to pop them in the questions section on your webinar, GoToWebinar. One of the questions, in fact, that I have here is if my browser is XP SP3, is this compatible? Sorry, if my server is in XP SP3, is this compatible with SHA-2? So I'd like to let you know it is compatible with SHA-2. And again, I'm sure a lot of people will have questions regarding the compatibility of their web browsers and their servers, and this can be found in the white paper that will be provided, that is on our SSL 247 website. So be sure to check that. If it's not on it, be sure to contact your server provider. They can help you out as well. And lastly, don't hesitate to contact us either. Okay. Now, lastly, I would like to thank all of you for attending this webinar. SSL 247, we not only do SSL certificates, we are specialists in the online business continuity. So we do protect you throughout your online business continuity. So whether that's SSL certificates, whether that's anti-malware solutions, If you have digital signature needs, we can do that as well, domain names and brand protection. But lastly, I would like to thank you for attending this webinar, and if you do have any questions, do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you very much.